everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Morgan MVP23. It's a 23 watt 1x12 combo. It's got a 1x12 Celestion creamback, 12AX7 preamp section, and it's solid state rectified. Nice sounding combo, definitely takes pedals well, and we can get into that. But it also dials up in and of itself really well for all kinds of different tones. And I didn't use any pedals for the performance song at the top. So let's get right into the controls, and then we'll get into some sounds. So you've got a gain control, and that's going to control the amount of overdrive in the preamp. Your volume control is actually going to control the amount of power amp breakup. And these two controls interact really well together. You can get a lot of different sounds just changing these before you even get into the EQ. Speaking of EQ, it's also very interactive. You've got treble, mid, and bass. The mid control especially kind of brings in more gain as you crank it up. And it's the right kind of mid, it's the right kind of gain. It doesn't get like overly barky or honky when you dime the mid. You get more of just a thick mid presence, but with also a little bit more gain, which is really great, and we'll get into that. And then the last control here is the power control, and basically that's controlling the voltage to the power section. So you can crank this guy all the way down to, I think, 1/4 watt. If you want, and that control comes in really handy, especially if you spent some time dialing in your volume and gain controls especially, and you need to turn down without affecting how the amp feels or sounds. That control comes in really handy. So right now got the amp dialed somewhat clean, and let's just get right into that aspect of the amp really quick, just the volume and gain interaction. So say you want that to actually be a little bit cleaner, there's a couple things you can do. Now with this volume control, so long as you keep it below about 3 o'clock, I would say, it's going to stay relatively clean for you. Now the gain control, if you want to reach for that first, to kind of clean it up, you can certainly turn it down a bit. Or you can go the other way and leave the gain kind of where it was, but turn down the volume control. Just depends on what you want to do with it. I like it with the gain up just a little bit for certain types of clean tones because there's a little bit more kind of hair on it. It's super clean, but there's a little bit of just kind of compression and feel there. But you could go the other way as well. Now you've got more power amp, more of the kind of power amp sag there with just a little bit of hair. Just depends on what you're into. And then of course if you're wanting to create gain, the same thing applies. So if we want more preamp gain, then we'll run the gain control hotter, maybe run that volume control a little bit softer. But say we want to go the other way and get more power amp breakup, which is going to sound a little bit more bold. Just depends on what you're into. And what was really cool about that is I wasn't really even touching the EQ to dial up a lot of the sounds. I was just kind of changing the volume and gain structure to get a lot of the tones that I was digging. So that's kind of how that works. Okay, so let's move on real quick to the bass, mid, and treb. What I'll do is I'll just roll them for you so you can hear them. I'll start with everything at 12 o'clock and I'll just kind of roll. So we'll start with the treble. Mid. Now you can hear how the mid actually created some gain. Really dug that for dialing in solo tones. And then here's the bass. Pretty robust bass. I would say, you know, be careful with that as you're, you know, turning volume and gain up and down. It could get a little loose on you. You know, just listen to what you're doing and don't be so visual about where anything is set. Just get it to sound right and just play. So there's a ton of tones here, and like I said, we can crank that mid all the way up to get kind of a solo tone. Maybe do a little bit more power amp style breakup. Maybe we'll back the treb off just a little bit. Okay, say you're digging that sound and you know that the way everything is interacting is just beauty, but you need to turn down. Someone's yelling at you, turn down. That's where this power control is going to come in really handy. So right now we're cranked. So I can turn this thing down so far that you can literally hear the pick off of my electric guitar more than you're going to be able to hear the amp. What I love about it is it still sounds really usable. It didn't all of a sudden disappear. It still feels great. It still sounds like I've got the amp cranked, but it's at a really reasonable volume, and all that kind of spongy power amp feel and sag is still there. So that's a 1/4 watt. I might have to even turn that up in post because I don't know if you guys can really hear it now. But anyways, that's what the power control does. Now, just real quick before I conclude, it does take pedals well. I tried a bunch of different pedals with it. Vintage, you know, fuzz style pedals, vintage overdrive, all the way to modern pedals. So I just left the one I stopped on, which was Friedman Dirty Shirley. So you can kind of hear that it does take pedals really well. So I guess that's a little bit of breakup. Make it even cleaner for you. So that concludes this demo video of the Morgan MVP23. If you've got questions, obviously go to their website and ask away. And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll have another video for you soon. Thanks.